Hello. No, I'm joking. Hello, what's going on, guys? Welcome and welcome back to the show. This is Chaos and Charcuterie. This is the visual segment of the Real Reality Realness podcast, where I, your host, Brian K. James, will read off some of my most interesting headlines that I've seen going through the internet and, just kind of give my reactions to what the celebrities and the people in pop culture are doing and talking about. And then on the second half of the show, I'm going to do a portion called Hey Ashley, Ask Ashley, Dear Ashley. I haven't really decided on which one I'm going to go with yet, but it's going to be an unsolicited advice segment where I read three different advice columns from three different women who all give advice, who all have names that start with A. And so I'm going to adapt an Ashley concept from the show Recess and do an unsolicited advice segment where I read their columns and then give advice that no one actually asked for. So, with that being said, first we're going to start off with some podcast business, and I'm going to tell you guys who came on the show today, who's going to be on tomorrow, and, make sure we plug and do all of those, business things, getting the bills paid and all of that. So today we had on the show Mark with a Q. He's a filmmaker. He is so much fun. We had a great conversation about all the things that he wants to do with his career and with his camera. And, we also had some more stories about, his place on the way up, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he's on the way up. But yeah, it's just go check out the conversation, children, because I don't want to spoil anything, but I do want to make sure that you guys know exactly where things are going, because he revealed a lot, not necessarily spilling tea or like bashing anybody, but it was a really great conversation. And there was a lot of questions that I didn't even know that I had that were answered. So, with that being said, shout out to Mark with a Q for being on the show today. And tomorrow, make sure you guys look out for Chauncey A. McQueen. I once again, another fun conversation, another person who I I've been getting a lot of people that have been able to make me laugh recently, and I enjoyed everything that he had to tell me about his beauty company Musk Labs and all of the things that sorry, and all of the things that he's been doing with his platform, like developing his own show and all the other things that he's had going on as well. So make sure you guys check out my interview with Chauncey tomorrow. Make sure you check out my interview with Mark with a Q today. Okay. Now, with that being said, I was trying to record these on another device so that this part can also be on the podcast as well, audibly. But I went back and listened, and for some reason, those episodes sound like I'm literally in a fishbowl and the fishbowl is underwater inside of the darkest room in the Titanic. So I am just going to let this be the visual portion. I leave these episodes on my Instagram. I leave these episodes on my YouTube channel. So if you can't catch these on Instagram, make sure you catch these on my YouTube channel at Georgia Carolina. Georgia is spelled like Jorja, spelled like Georgia Smith. And then Carolina is spelled like North and South, both states. So you can always watch it back here. But until I figure out a different way to record it with another device that is also conducive to the setup that I have going on right now, it's going to kind of be like here for right now. So, with that being said, let's get to the sheds. Starting with Jay-Z settling a lawsuit, okay? Going over to allhiphop.com, the exclusive is Jay-Z settles lawsuit against Reasonable Doubt album cover photographer. Jay-Z sued photographer Jonathan Mannion and his company Jonathan Mannion Photography LLC in June 2021. The Rock Nation mogul claimed Mannion, who shot the cover for Jay-Z's 1996 album Reasonable Doubt, used his likeness and name without his permission. The case was expected to go to trial in March, but it seems there has been a change of plans. According to the court documents obtained by All Hip Hop, Jay-Z and Mannion have asked the judge to vacate the trial. Essentially, they've agreed to settle. As the documents explain, parties have engaged in settlement discussions and agreed in principle on the terms of the settlement, which includes a stipulated dismissal of action subject to execution of a long form blah, excuse me. Excuse me. Let me read that again. Parties have engaged in settlement discussions and agreed in principle on the terms of the settlement, which includes a stipulated dismissal of this action subject to execution of a long-form settlement agreement. The paperwork also explains Jay-Z and Mannion have been working diligently toward finalizing settlement agreements and made substantial progress. Therefore, they're asking the court to throw out the trial. Okay, that's awesome. Full article is at allhiphop.com. I am glad that they have been able to come to some sort of agreement that has been able to be conducive enough that they're able to put this to bed and move on without going to an official trial. I think that it's sad that the situation has come to what it is, especially so far down the line in the future. I don't know why he thought that at this point he'd be able to get away with it. Especially with the rise of the internet and also the rise of internet trolls and of everything else. So I don't know, but I'm glad that they were able to figure it out to a point of at least settling. And nobody has to go to any type of trial and it be any type of extra situation. I'm glad that they were able to figure it out enough to put it to bed. So shout out to them. Speaking of not being able to put it to bed, though, Chelsea Handler and Jo Koy and their breakup seems to not be able to be put to bed at all. And it makes me sad because it's like they were a cute couple while they lasted. They were cool as friends back in the day on the Chelsea lately. And I was ready for them to break up if they were going to break up. Like, it didn't hurt me as much as it seemed to hurt y'all, apparently, because people do not seem to want to stop asking about it. Okay. According to People magazine, Chelsea Handler is fed up with Jo Koy questions. And there's a quote saying that I'm not promoting a breakup from 6 months ago. Chelsea Handler will always be very fond of her ex, Jo Koy, but she's focused on moving forward. The 47-year-old comedian appeared on Wednesday's episode of the Call Her Daddy podcast, where she revealed that making her Netflix special, Chelsea Handler Revolution, which Koy 51 directed, was one of her favorite moments of her career. I got to share it with somebody that I was madly in love with. It's super sweet, she said of the special, which was released on December 27th. It's probably the sweetest thing I've ever done. I'm not a very sweet romantic person. I'm sweet. But while the special continues to hold a place in her heart, the television personality said she's no longer interested in discussing her relationship with Koy after their split in July. I just don't really want to comment on it any further because it turns into a headline, excuse me. She told host Alex Cooper, and I'm not promoting a breakup from 6 months ago. I'm here to talk about all the other things I'm doing. And I understand people are interested, but it's just like it's run out of gas, which I mean, I kind of understand. Full article at People magazine or at people.com. I don't. What else is there to say? Stop asking her about her damn breakup. Like, what else is there to say about it? What else can she say about her breakup? Like, She's been there, she's done that, she's said it, she loves him, she's moved on. Let it go. Let it go. God bless her. God bless Joe. Like everybody moved on. Go watch his movie. Um, I forgot the movie he was around here promoting last year. But child, like let the relationship breathe. Let the relationship breathe because that thing is over with. And Chelsea is clearly trying to say, it is over with. We is not getting back together. And y'all can go ask Taylor Swift if y'all want somebody to talk about it. Ask her to write a song about it because I'm not doing it. Find somebody else to do it. Um, but apparently, a Madonna biopic has been scrapped ahead of the singer's world tour. This is on JoBlo.com. Okay. After Madonna announced a brand new world tour last week, fans began speculating about the fate of her upcoming biopic. It seems that they were right to worry, as Variety has reported that the Madonna biopic has been scrapped by Universal Pictures. The Hollywood Reporter added that the Madonna biopic was actually scrapped late last year before the iconic musician announced her world tour. The outlet added that the development has been a struggle, with none of the drafts for the movie making it under 180 pages. There were reportedly conversations about turning it into two movies or maybe even transforming it into a miniseries, which would certainly have made it easier to include more of Madonna's storied career. Although the project has been shelved at this point, Madonna may revisit it once her tour is complete. Um, okay. So that sucks. Um, I would have loved to see how far they would have gotten, what they would have done with it, who she would have gotten to play her. I didn't actually know that there was a Madonna biopic coming. I didn't even know that she announced a tour yesterday. So, um, congratulations on both of those. But I guess since you're shelving the movie at this point, hopefully you find somebody else to pick it up and take it somewhere else because I think that you having a biopic would be interesting at this point. Um, I do not want to see a made for television biopic with Madonna. I'm sure somebody probably is going to hear that she scrapped it and decide to throw one together for Lifetime now. Please don't. I don't want to see that. Um, and I don't even think I want to see Lady Gaga play Madonna either. I think at this point, there's so much history. I don't even know if I want to see that. Yeah, you just get somebody else to do it. Find somebody else to do it. But shout out to Madonna. I hope you have another successful, amazing tour. In fact, you know what? I'm lying. I did know that she had another tour coming out because ain't that the tour that Bob is going to be the special guest on? Ain't Bob the drag queen supposed to be the special guest on Madonna's new tour? And that's allegedly why they canceled the other half of the sibling rivalry tour. But I don't know if that's, like people are probably going to make that more shady than it actually is. And it's probably like, oh, well, now Monet can go on a comedy club tour, which I think is what she's actually doing right now. I think she's on a comedy club tour instead of going on the second half of the thing, and Bob is going on the Madonna tour. So it's not like anybody cutting nobody corn. I think that's probably why Bob decided to take it was because Monet could go and reroute and do something else and still make the coin. Um, So, yeah, shout out to Bob and Monet. God bless y'all. Did y'all see that video with Jackie Ina that just came out? I thought that video was so freaking funny and so cute. Um, Bob and Monet literally just took over Jackie's channel and made her feel like the awkward middle child and made her feel like Bob was the older sister and Monet was the youngest sister and like Jackie was Jan in the middle and just didn't know what to damn do with herself. I thought it was the funniest thing ever. Shout out to Jackie Ina, the epitome of black girl luxury to me. I love Jackie Ina so much. She's the first girl that really put me on to black girl luxury or like made me aware of the concept of black girl luxury. So shout out to her. I love Jackie Ina. And also shout out to Bob and Monet as well for releasing Bomo Beauty. They have that reversible palette that also opens up into, they have the hand performance palette that opens up into the whole thing. Like it opens up this way and then it opens up this way and then it opens up this way. Do you get what I mean? It's the hand performance palette, but it's not. It's actually I don't forgot the damn name of the palette, but the concept of it was dope as fuck though. The way that they had like four shades on one side, four shades on the other side, and then you opened it up this way, and it's eight shades into a full palette that has mirrors on both sides, so it's one long mirror. That's hot. I love that. I forgot the name of the palette though. It was like a uh pretty funny palette. Pretty funny palette. That's what it is. I knew I wasn't gonna get I was going to try to do it from memory, but if I had to look it up, I was going to. Anyway, speaking of, well, honestly, there's no segue for this. I don't even understand why the hell this is. God, okay. So Maya Rudolph is replacing the candy from M&Ms because allegedly the company M&Ms is tired of y'all being in their ass about what the hell they do with they damn spokespeople. So they said, you know what? We just gonna take away spokespeople altogether, or we're gonna take away the spokes candies specifically altogether and put somebody else in there. Just throw somebody else in there. Just pick a name out of a basket. Maya Rudolph. What's she doing? What's she doing? You want to come over there and be the M&M's lady? Like, I don't know if it was that random or if there's an actual story, but it just annoys me the way that they're framing this entire change of the guard because it's like, oh, it's annoying. Let's just read it. Let's just read the article. This comes from Baller Alert. Maya Rudolph set to replace spokes candies in M&M's campaigns following gender neutral backlash. Blogged by the fine author. Maya Rudolph has a new gig with M&M's, and that is to restore order after the backlash from the Spokes Candy's rebranded appearances last year. If you recall, people were in an uproar when the candy brand gave their animated characters a gender-neutral makeover. The green M&M went from rocking high-heeled boots to sneakers, while the brown M&M got a fresh pair of white Easter Sunday pumps. The new images were printed on the M&M's candies, and through Mars, the parent company was working to be inclusive of every customer. People had an issue with it. I feel like I misread that sentence. The new images were printed on the candy packages, and though Mars, the parent company, was working to be inclusive of every customer, people had an issue with it. There it is. In a statement shared on the M&M Instagram page, the company admitted that they weren't sure if many people would even notice the character's wardrobe change. But living in the internet age, consumers tend to catch everything. Therefore, M&M has placed its spokes candies on the shelf and introduced Randolph as a replacement. We are confident Ms. Randolph will champion the power of fun and create a world where everyone feels they belong. The statement read. In a separate IG post, they called the actress hashtag Chief of Fun. I think this is so stupid. I think this is so stupid and I think it's so pointed and I think it is a blatant attack on queer identity. Like, bro, Mars literally did the right thing and y'all canceled them right out of spokespeople that they've had on their platform for years. Years, decades. Y'all canceled M&Ms for being inclusive? You gotta be fucking kidding me, bro. Y'all canceled M&Ms for being inclusive. I done heard it all before. Y'all are crazy. Yo, I'm sorry. This is the thing about woke culture that really pisses me off. Because it's like, what does that even mean? Like, what does that mean? Y'all cancel the company for being inclusive. Yet, y'all will shade a company for being diverse. Like, I have seen people get upset when Garcelle came onto Housewives because she was a black housewives. I've seen people upset when Ebony came. Y'all get so mad when people want to talk about like it's just oh God. I just y'all really want to put prejudice onto Candy, my G? Y'all want to put phobia. Y'all want to place queer phobia on Candy. 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 I'm not even talking about homophobia, transphobia. I'm talking about queer phobia on Candy. Y'all canceled cartoon characters that don't exist, but y'all won't cancel people for being racist. Y'all will cancel cartoon characters before y'all cancel people for being domestically violent. Y'all will cancel cartoon characters before y'all cancel people who abuse their children. Like, it is crazy the shit that y'all will cancel people over. I'm disgusted. That is pathetic. Like, y'all canceled M&Ms for changing a bitch's shoes? Her shoes, my G? Really? That's real whack, bro. Like, I don't know why y'all like what even is that? Like, I don't even know how to respond to that. I don't even know how to even like what does that even mean? Like, how do I even like what? Y'all canceled M&Ms for changing the bitch's shoes. Let's move on because I'm over it. I'm over it. Like that is really the more I think about that, the more upset I get. That is really upset. That is really upsetting. That is extremely, extremely upsetting. But you know what's not upsetting? This flight attendant I read about on Upworthy.com which I didn't actually read the article. I read the headline before I say I read about him. I read a headline about him. Let me be very specific. Flight attendant sits on the floor with a passenger the entire flight to comfort them in their distress. I had to reword it because I was saying it wrong, but I had to reword it to make it make sense. The actual headline is flight attendant sits on floor the entire flight to comfort distressed passenger. He explained every sound and bump. Not everyone enjoys flying. The level of non enjoyment can range from mild discomfort to full blown aerophobia, which is defined as an extreme fear of flying. While flying is the quickest way to get to faraway destinations, for some people, being that far off the ground is terrifying and they'd rather take their chances on the ground. As a passenger flying from Charlotte Douglas International Airport in North Carolina to JFK International Airport in New York confronted that fear while flying with Delta. The woman, who is currently still unidentified, expressed that she was nervous to fly, according to Molly Simonson Lee, a passenger seated behind the woman who witnessed the encounter. Tight spaces don't make for much privacy, but in this case, the world is better for knowing this took place. According to Lee, who posted about the exchange on Facebook, the Delta flight attendant, Floyd Dean Shannon, took his time to give the nervous traveler his undivided attention. Lee told Upworthy the unidentified passenger was very nervous, and even before the plane took off, she was visibly shaken by each sound. I'm shaking. I'm visibly shaking. I'm physically shaking. Approximately 25 million people in the US have aerophobia, according to the Cleveland Clinic, and most of them probably wish Dean Shannon was on their flights. He took notice and began explaining what each sound was with the warmest, calmest tone, Lee said. That wasn't even the most amazingly sweet part of the story. While the explanation of the noises helped, Lee said about halfway through the flight the passenger was fighting back tears, which prompted Dean Shannon to sit on the floor and hold the frightened passenger's hand. He comforted her for the rest of the flight while sitting on the floor. His tone was so kind and soothing, according to Lee. Dean Shannon's kindness didn't stop there, Lee explained. The woman sat next to me. The woman next to me was celebrating a birthday, and he sang to her and made her a cake with all of the goodies he could round up. Cake in quotation marks. I'm not sure what Delta pays him, but he needs a raise immediately. And it seems the people of the interwebs agree. Commenter Miranda Anderson tagged Delta Airlines and wrote, I hope you see this. These are the types of people that deserve raises and make your company worth flying with. And this is what pits you above the others. So show these employees this is what you want and what you need. That is incredible. Shout out to Floyd Dean Shannon. Because I don't know if I have that level of patience. I don't know if I have that level of um, personal bandwidth and capacity to engage with someone for that long, especially in a moment of crisis and trauma. So I applaud you for your ability to continue to engage with her, not only in a manner that was completely selfless, but was also a way that was soothing to her, as well as giving of yourself. That is completely admirable and it is completely inspiring. Shout out to you. You need an award for that. Now, on that note, I'm going to close the first half of our show and I'm going to get into our Ask Ashley segment. I'm just going to keep the alliteration thing going because this whole thing started with alliteration, and these ladies who do these advice columns names all starting with A. So I'm just going to keep the whole alliteration thing going because I'm a really big person with alliteration. As you guys can see, the name of my podcast is Real Reality Realness. You know, I keep it very interesting. Thank you so much, Dave. But yeah, the entire concept of the second half of my show is I read these advice columns from these three different women whose names all start with A, and I basically give their writers unsolicited advice that they wrote other people for, you know? I do what I can. You have a thing for the words. This is true. I do what I can. So, yeah, I just enjoy getting into other people's business in a productive way. Like I'm nosy, but I'm nosy with a purpose. And so I figured this would be a fun way because I rediscovered Dear Abby like a couple weeks ago, and I had no idea that this was still a thing and that this was still happening. So I decided to read about it on my show and I got so obsessed with it that I decided to turn it into a segment because the next day, as I was looking for Dear Abby segments, I came across Dear Annie and Ask Amy. So I was like, well, wait a damn minute. What if I just do an Ask Ashley? And me just take on this fake persona of Ashley and give these people this unsolicited advice that they actually asked other people for. So, with that being said, let's start with the GOAT, Dear Abby. Okay. This one is, let's see, this one is on the OregonLive.com website. It says, the headline is Dear Abby, lack of affection slash attention from my partner of 3 years drove me into the arms of another man. Dear Abby, I'm in a 3-year relationship But my significant other, Ron, is extremely cautious about emotional attachment. It took him 2 years to tell me he loves me or even express any form of serious affection. In addition, he's consumed by his job and worries about his co-stars, about how his co-stars, about his co-workers, about how his co-workers perceive him. He seems to prioritize work over relationships. He seems to prioritize work relationships over our relationship. Because I have been depressed by the meager affection he shows me, I began an intimate relationship with a former coworker, Dan. Dan expresses no reservation or restraint in his feelings for me. He makes me feel appreciated, beautiful, and loved. I have strong feelings for them both and realize I've created a horrible situation. I don't want to abandon a stable, caring relationship that is cultivated over the years, but I am terrified that ending that relationship in favor of the one with Dan would be something I regret later. But I am unwilling to break things off with Dan. I'd appreciate any advice. Signed, two timer on the East Coast. Dear two timer, I'll try because your relationship with Ron left you feeling so empty that you went looking for solace in another man's arms. Ask yourself whether you really love Ron or just a challenge of getting him to finally commit to you. You were unwilling to give up Dan because he gives you affection and validation, which are vital in a long term relationship. Recognize that you are cheating on both men, which isn't fair to neither one. And do not think that Ron won't find out. If you want to spend your life with an emotionally unstable workaholic, I'm sorry, not unstable, unavailable. If you want to spend your life with with an emotionally unavailable workaholic, do the honorable thing and break up with Dan. If what you have been getting from Dan is more important to you, well, you know the drill. I agree. I think that at the end of the day, you kind of set yourself up for a sticky situation by even excuse me, by even volunteering to put yourself in this position in the first place. I almost unplugged my cord there. But you volunteered yourself in this this, this you volunteered to put yourself in this messy situation by going and getting yourself in this as the person who was in a relationship. At the end of the day, the fault mostly is going to lie on you because you were the person who was committed to another person when you decided to engage in your relationship with Ron in the first place. There's nothing that makes sense about that. I don't understand why you would do that. If you don't want to be in the relationship, leave. And or if you want to stay in the relationship and have somebody else have a conversation about that and see how willing your partner is to open up and be a primary more so as a monogamous partner. It's not hard to have these conversations if you're willing enough to cheat, if you're willing to go and risk it all and lie and creep behind these back. Go and creep, yeah, go and creep out on and down. Like, if you're willing to go out and do all of that, then you should be willing to sit your ass down and have an actual conversation with somebody that is productive and effective enough to probably benefit the both of you. Because you might discover something about you and your partner that might benefit the both of you in the long term of your relationship, whether you're with each other or not. Y'all still may not end up together, but however you may have a level of comfort exploring who you actually are and your sexual proclivities going forward if you just sit down and be honest with each other and stop going and creep, yeah, go and creep out on it. Like, it's ignorant. Like, why Like, if you willing to go and risk it all, if you willing to go and throw it all away, if you going to put all things aside, put all risk, assume all risk, then why not jump off a different cliff and just have a difficult conversation. It would seem like putting your entire life at risk would be less difficult than, or it would seem like putting your entire life at risk would be more difficult than just having a conversation with somebody that you claim that you love and you still want to be with. Why is it the person that you claim that you love and you want to be with is always the least person that you want to talk to, especially when it concerns them directly? That's just my opinion. Like, I ain't saying I know shit, but I'm just saying, like, that's just my opinion because I just don't understand, like, why you would not have that conversation with them. But, you know, if you want to go around here being a hoochie, God bless you. Stay safe. Um, on Ask Amy, which is also on Oregon Live, this headline I just thought was funny, so I can't wait to get into this letter. Ask Amy, I think my granddaughters are only nice to me to get at my Beanie Baby collection. Dear Amy, I'm a retired woman living in the northern US. I find joy in the simple things in life, taking walks around my property and collecting things like Beanie Babies, some of which are rather valuable. This is where the problem lies. I have two granddaughters, both in their late teens, which come over from time to time whenever their parents force them. They eye my collection, and instead of seeing simple collectibles, I'm afraid they just see dollar signs. When their parents first started making them visit me, they were rather reluctant, having an attitude towards me, shutting themselves in their guest room, and burying themselves in their cell phones. However, when they finally took note of my Beanie Baby collection, things changed. Now, when they visit, they're far more cheerful, engaging me in pleasant conversation and helping me around the house. One time, they even brought a friend along to look at my collection. I would like to believe that they are simply maturing in their characters, but a small part of me is afraid that they are only being nice to me to get at my collection. Amy, I would like to give them the benefit of the doubt, but am I being too naive? Signed, Suspicious Grandma. Let me know if you like that reading. Dear Grandma, the whole collectible Beanie Baby phenomenon is either a very weird, valuable bubble, blah, blah, blah. The whole collectible Beanie Baby phenomenon is either a very weird valuation bubble of sorts or a genius gold mine, depending on what Beanie Babies you possess and what source you check to determine their value. Your attitude is toward your granddaughters is less than ideal. Of course, these teens are interested in this collection of yours. Isn't this something you have in common? You could connect with them by enlisting their help to research the value of some of these specific toys. Question to ask yourself: do you view these toys as an investment with plans to try to sell them one day? Or do you simply enjoy the process of collecting them? How do you imagine that your granddaughters would get at your collection? Do you believe that they are hoping you will give them some of the collectibles or leave these toys to them after your death? Do you fear that they will be tempted to take them? I suggest that you choose to see your granddaughters as being like the most valuable Beanie Babies in your collection, in pristine condition, complete with original tags. If you expressed as much curiosity and interest toward them as you have invested in your collection, then your relationship with them would be more solid and you might be closer and more confident about their motives today. That last paragraph with what Nene Leakes would call a read. Anyway, yeah, I think that unless you have actual reasoning to be suspicious of why these girls are over here at your Beanie Baby so hard, like I don't remember them actually saying that the girls collect Beanie Babies too. Now, mind you, I was doing a dramatic reading, so I'm not sure if um She actually said that they engaged in it too. Yeah, in the thing, she doesn't say anything about the girls actually engaging in the Beanie Baby collecting at all. So for me, if that alone gives you suspicion that they may just be after it to sell it, that may be, a bit of a reach and a stretch. But however, um, you know your grandchildren, right? So like, how often do you see your grandchildren? How involved are you in your grandchildren's life? I'm assuming that you weren't necessarily that involved in the growing up of your grandchildren because your grandchildren want to come over there reluctantly, like they don't know you like that. Or they could just be being teenagers and they just want to be doing other things and they just don't feel like being around you like that. That also happens too. I'm not exactly sure which one it is, but for you to be that suspicious of them, it it kind of reads of two things. Like it is either okay, you're being dramatic, or they're giving you a reason to feel that way. So have they stole something from you before? Have they given you a reason to feel that way? Have they been asking you how much these things cost, or like how much they're worth? What are you seeing from them, or what are they asking you to give you the inclination that they're only after the Beanie Babies, or that they're only coming over here to engage in your Beanie Baby collection for nefarious purposes? Like, why do you feel like they're trying to like get at your Beanie Baby collection? Like, that's a little interesting to me. I don't know if I like that. I wonder why you're so suspicious of your grandkids. Like, it makes me want to believe that they've given you a reason to be this suspicious, but I also don't know what. You didn't mention any other reasoning of why you would be this suspicious, or would think that they would try to steal your Beanie Baby collection, or would try to only be over there to get at your allegedly valuable Beanie Baby collection. So I don't know. It does read as sad. It does read as sad. I will say that. Um, let's see. Now, when it comes to my last story, I'm gonna go to Dear Annie. And this one is, oop, I just went to something else. Sorry. No, I don't want to read about potty training. Sorry, I have an 8-year-old that I've already gotten through potty training, so I'm not trying to read about that. I didn't I didn't read the headline this time either. But however, I do have a backup. I do have another Dear Annie, or a dear. I do have a backup Dear Abby to read. So back to Dear Abby. The headline is Twice Divorced Woman Thinks a Throuple Situation May Appeal to Her Close Friends. Dear Abby, I'm a woman in my early 50s who has been through 2 divorces. This may make me sound like a bad person, but I'm really nice and quite conservative. I just make poor choices when it comes to men. A few years ago, I met a woman I have become good friends with. She's happily married. She and her husband are empty nesters like I am. We often socialize, and when we do, there is definitely chemistry between the three of us. I recently heard of the concept of a throuple, which, excuse me, which is consenting adults living together as any couple would, except there are three rather than two. I can't help but wonder whether my friend, her husband, and I might make a good throuple. This is not a case of rushing into something. We have known each other for several years and we have established trust and compatibility. I'm nervous to bring this up because I don't want to jeopardize our friendship. I'm also scared of how deeply I feel for both of these people, and I think it's mutual. I don't like being single, and the thought of dating again gives me hives. What should I do? Found the right ones out west. Okay. Okay, Mama, that's tea. Dear Found, carefully consider which will Consider which will give you worse hives. After two divorces, you are now in a position to make wiser decisions about men in the future, provided you're willing to risk dipping your toe into the dating pool. It's very possible that, as much as this couple likes you, they may not be enthusiastic about the idea of a throuple. Proposing what you have in mind may put a crimp in your relationship with one or both of them, unless you can find a way to casually gauge their reaction to throupling hypothetically in the course of a conversation. Allow me to share a bit of wisdom that has served me well. When in doubt, don't. Okay, so I am not completely against the idea, but I would not have written. I think for me, the only answer that there would be to this would have been to gauge how they would feel about being in a throuple before you spring the actual desire to be in a throuple with them on them. I think um, yeah, that's pretty much what I think about it. I think that would be the most obvious thing to do is to just not spring it on them until you have a better idea of what they would actually be willing to participate in, and then, kind of go from there. But I don't see you just springing this on them as a part of that conversation. I think that there has to be a separate conversation that would have to happen, or you would have to have that conversation of you being a part of that hypothetical throuple later on in the conversation, if that conversation were to go initially to the proposition of there being a throuple in the first place. So, yeah, I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea. I personally don't think that I would engage in throuple activity. I am somebody who is not opposed to the idea of polyamory. However, my execution of polyamory would have to look like separate relationships. It wouldn't be a throuple situation for me. I'm not opposed to it for anybody else, but I think for my own execution of polyamory, I don't think that I could overlap my relationships with other people. I think that would be too much for my own mental process. And I believe that that would be also too messy for me to engage in as a participant. So, with that being said, you know, I can see the idea based on, thruples. I can see how you may come to that concept, and the fact that you've become so willing to be open to the idea and have found people who you think you would have chemistry with, both he and she, both parts of the situation. I think that that would be something very interesting for you to be a part of. Um, I wonder what it was about those people that even made you consider that in the first place. Like, was there anything that kind of gave you a bit of a gauge to think that that would be something that they would be willing to be a part of in the first place, which made you consider writing to Abby as like a second opinion? I'm not sure, but I definitely think that you should go about gauging it as a preliminary hypothetical conversation, as just a gauge with her first, and then see how she feels about it. As I'm assuming she's the person who established the friendship with her and her husband, and you became friends with both of them. I'm assuming. If not, go to the person who you established the friendship with first, engage their part in it first, and then see how they feel about it, see how they feel their spouse would feel about it, and then kind of go from there. So that's my advice on that. Before I wrap up, I have a comment from Mimir. Let me know if I'm saying your name wrong. I'm sorry if I am. I apologize. Hi, I just recently Hi, I just recently found your channel and I'm so glad I did. I remember you from Up and Adam and always liked what you had to say. You are wise beyond your years, my dear. Thank you so much, love. I appreciate you. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Mamir. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for leaving this comment. I really appreciate it. Shout out to Adam. Shout out to Jason. Those were the good old days. Those were my first kind of that was my first dalliance into actual commentary YouTubing. Before that, I had a YouTube channel that was more so just me expressing my opinions and thoughts on concepts that I kind of came up with on my own. Um, and that eventually turned into my first podcast called Essays with Essay, that was connected to my drag name at the time, Shantae Arnett. But yeah, being on Up and Adam was the first time that I was engaging in actual commentary, YouTubing, and speaking about what I thought about people and what they were doing on reality television on a consistent basis. The actual first channel that I ever called into was actually Kempire. I can't remember what I called in to talk to him about, but I feel like it might have been like a Love and Marriage Huntsville. It might have been like a something like that. Like it was something with a black cast, I'm sure. But I that was my first time calling into a channel, and then after that, I think I just discovered Adam's channel in the comments, or I discovered Adam's channel somewhere in the Matrix outside of Kempire's channel, and then I started watching his channel, and I enjoyed the way that he was covering content at the time, and he was doing this live show where he would drop the call in link and have people call in, and I just, I guess, had enough nerve to do it. And eventually I kind of became a regular over there. So shout out to them. Their podcast is also really good, called Hot Messy Podcast. Make sure you guys go and check that out. Um, you know, love to them. But yeah, with that being said, that has been our show. I appreciate you guys for being here. Make sure that you like the video. If you can like the video on Instagram, like the video on YouTube, I appreciate it. Make sure that you follow me on Instagram right here at the Real Reality Realness. That's THEE, Real Reality Realness. And also make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel at Georgia Carolina. Georgia is spelled like Georgia Smith, Jorja. Carolina spelled like both states. And, give me a like. If you don't like, don't dislike. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all of the things. I try to schedule these lives out by the week so you guys know when I'm going live, what day and what time. Excuse me, sorry. Excuse me, sorry. But I try to schedule these out a week ahead of time so that you guys know Sunday what days I'm going live and what time I'm going live on each day. Because right now, based on the interviews that I'm doing, I can't really go live the same time every day. But with that being said, I appreciate you all for being here. This is Chaos and Charcuterie. This is the visual segment of the Real Reality Realness podcast. That podcast is where I interview figures in music, reality television, and pop culture about their life stories, their perspectives, and their platforms. And that show debuts new episodes 5 days a week at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. Central Time. That is Monday through Friday. Make sure that you're subscribed to my sister podcast, Housewives History, which is where my co-host and I, Megan, where my co-host Megan Eady and I take a historic episode of The Real Housewives from the week in history that we're watching the show, recap it, and then go on deep dives, have tangents, play games, give opinions, and just sit and have a conversation and sometimes debate on all things housewives. And we focus on the good times and leave y'all to argue about the bad ones. So follow us down memory lane because we're going to give you one of the best retrospective housewives podcasts I think that has ever existed. Also, stay tuned for Groove and Gravity, which is coming out in March. That is my segment collaborative with Dave Lennon from the Lost in the Groove podcast, where we are going to dissect music artists and their legacies. We are going to talk about them as artists and people and dive into their life stories and then dive into their music and their legacy as artists and what they co- contributed to the industry and to the public as a whole. Make sure you watch out for that. Subscribe to Groove and Gravity. Also, make sure you check out Drag Cap, which is my drag race recap series with Giselle from Giselle. She shortened it to Cell or Zell, and I'm not exactly sure which, so I need to correct myself on that. I'll have it right next week by the next time I talk to her. Um, yeah, make sure you watch it. She is the host of the Who Asked Me podcast, so make sure you subscribe and go follow her for that too. And we are recapping season 15 of RuPaul's Drag Race right now. Those episodes will be exclusively on my podcast and on my YouTube channel. So make sure you catch Chaos and Charcuterie on exclusively on my Instagram and on my YouTube channel, and then make sure you catch Drag Cap exclusively on my podcast and on my YouTube channel. So, with that being said, I appreciate every single one of you guys for being here. I love every single one of you from the bottom of my green heart emoji. Keep the mess in the message, misbehave yourselves, hit all the links, follow all the people, hit all the bells, do all of the things. And until next time, peace. Goodbye.